Hello, and welcome to the virtual Paint, Build, Create event, a science, technology, engineering, art, and math themed event for all ages, brought to you by the Arlington County Department of Parks and Recreation. My name's Sam, and today we'll be making newspaper forts. Here's a list of supplies we'll need for the activity. The first item you need is newspaper. You will need 36 individual sheets total. The next item you'll need is a dowel. If you don't have a dowel, you can use skewers or a pencil. Last item you'll need is tape. You can use Scotch tape, masking tape, or duct tape. Let's get started. Step 1 is rolling your paper. To make things faster for yourself, you want to tear off a couple pieces of tape and stick them on the edge of your workspace. Then you're going to take your first sheet of individual newspaper and lay it diagonally on your workspace. Take your dowel or a kebab stick and put it at the edge of your newspaper. And then you're going to start to roll from corner to corner. Start at the very edge of your paper and then roll all the way up. You want to be sure that a large piece of your dowel is sticking out so that you're able to pull out the dowel halfway through your roll. Then you continue rolling all the way until the end. Once you reach the end, you're going to take one piece of tape and secure your roll. Make sure your roll is nice and tight and put that tape on there. If you need more than one piece, that's okay, but one piece should be enough. I'm going to speed up how I made my first 3 rolls so we can move on to making our triangles. Step 2 is making our triangles. Now that we finished 3 rolls, we can put our triangle together. So form the shape of your triangle and then pre-cut your tape. And then you're going to tape each point together. So you're going to tape at the point. You're going to make sure that the points are touching. So each side of one stick is touching the other before you tape down. And then you're going to tape them together. You're just going to wrap it around both ends of the stick and make sure it's closed. And do that to all 3 sides. As I mentioned in the list of supplies, you want 36 individual sheets of newspaper because we're going to need 36 rolled sheets. This will give you 12 triangles to make your fort. I'm going to speed up how I made all 36 of my rolls so we can move on to making our 12 triangles. If you are working with me, feel free to pause the video here so you can work on your rolls before we move on to our triangles. Once you've rolled all your sheets, you want to start making your triangles. Remember, you need a total of 12 triangles. You are working with me. Feel free to pause the video here so you can finish your triangles before we move on to making our walls. Once all your triangles are made, you want to sort them into groups of 3 so it's easier to build your structure. Step 3 is building the roof of our fort. The first thing we're going to build is the roof of our fort. So you're going to take your first group of 3 triangles, and then you're going to line up 2 triangles next to each other and start to tape the ends of those triangles, the pointy parts. The ends of those triangles. You can stand them up so that you get more support while you're taping, and tape each end. Make sure it's very secure, so use a lot of tape to wrap around each end of the triangles where they touch. Once you've wrapped around the tape and attached the first 2 triangles, you're then going to add on the 3rd triangle using tape as well. So in that empty slot on the other side, you place the 3rd triangle in there and then you secure it with tape as well. I'm going to speed up how I secured the pieces of my roof together so that we can move on to making the walls of our fort. If you are working with me, feel free to pause the video here so that you can secure your roof before moving on to the walls of our fort. Step 4 is building the walls of our fort. So we're going to take our next group of 3 triangles and we're going to lay them out side by side. You're going to face one triangle down, the next triangle up, and the last triangle down to make one wall. This is one side of our fort. Once you've placed your triangles on the floor, you're going to tape them together. Remember, we are taping the ends, so the pointy part, the very tips of each triangle. Once you've taped it all together, make sure it's secure. Just stand it up on one side because that is going to be the wall. So you want to make sure that everything is taped together securely. Then you can move on to your next wall. This is a 3-sided fort. So you want to make sure you grab your next group of 3 and do the same steps. Lay out your triangles and then tape them together. One facing down, one facing up, the next facing down. You're going to do the same thing for the last set of 3 triangles. I'm going to fast forward building the other 2 sets of walls so that we can move on to putting our walls all together. If you're working with me, feel free to pause the video here so that you can work on building your walls so we can move on to attaching the walls together. Step 5 is attaching your walls together. Once you've finished all 3 sides of your fort, it's time to put it all together. So you should have what looks like this: the roof of your fort and 3 walls for your fort. You're going to lay out the walls, one for each side. So you want to take your first set of wall. Make sure that the shorter end of the wall is facing up and the longer end is on the bottom. So the longer end is the base and the shorter end is on top. Again, longer end on the bottom, shorter end on top. So 2 triangles on the bottom and the 1 triangle on the top. Line them up next to each other. For now, we can get our roof out of the way. Line them up next to each other, and then you're going to tape them together. So just right next to each other, you're going to tape the points, the ends of the triangles together. I finished taping the 2 walls together. Before taping the 3rd wall together, I stood up my walls to see how much spacing I needed to get that 3rd wall in there. It was tricky to keep them stable without the 3rd piece in there, but it did help me see what I needed as far as spacing. Then grab your 3rd wall and you're going to attach it to your 2 walls, just like you did the first 2. If you are working with me, feel free to pause the video here so you can attach your walls together before we move on to attaching our roof to our walls. Once you're all done securing the last part of your wall, you should have a base that looks like this. 3 sides of your wall that create the base for your fort. Step 6 is attaching the roof of your fort to the walls of your fort. Our last step is to secure the roof onto the base of our fort. So take your already created roof, and then you're going to tape it just as you taped the base to the bottom. Tape the top to the bottoms. Remember, you're taping those edges, the pointy ends. Make sure you're using a good amount of tape so that it's very secure. I'm going to fast forward me securing the roof of my fort to the walls of my fort so we can get to our final product. You're working with me. Feel free to pause the video here so you can properly secure your roof to your walls for your final product. And here's our final product. You can make whatever size fort you'd like. We made a 3-sided triangle fort, but you can make a hexagon fort. You can make it 4 sides. You can make it 6 sides, 10 sides, whatever you like, as long as you have enough newspaper to make rolls and triangles. The math behind our newspaper forts is triangles.
Triangles are considered the strongest shape because they can hold heavy loads without collapsing. This is why architects use them so often in structures. Bridges are made of trusses, which are triangles that share the same sides and connect, just like our forts. Domes and spears are also formed by triangles like geodesic domes at playgrounds and the Epcot ball at Disney World.
I hope you had a great time building your fort. I know I did. Thanks for building with me. See ya. Thank you for joining us at our virtual Paint, Build, Create event. Check out all the other cool activities in this series at this link. Bye for now.